Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk more person of interest. And I'm amped for this show. Last episode did a lot to really hook me in and the show just got way more complicated and more interesting in my books because of it. The CIA is no longer this sort of monolithic hurdle that will continue to interfere with Reese's operations, which isn't to say there won't be interference, but we're getting into the real gray area of what the CIA is all about, how they're snatching American citizens, well, at least snatching people on American soil to be taken to random black ops sites with agents that don't really seem to care about the why. We're diving into the fact that the CIA deals drugs to fund the war on terror. Lots of really gray zone kind of stuff that such ambiguous morality. I always dig that kind of thing. We elevated corrupt cops from being bad guys in a B plot on the show to maybe the primary antagonistic force for the remainder of the season. Fusco is going undercover within HR, as these corrupt cops refer to themselves, to be Finch and Reese's eyes and ears within that organization. And I feel like we're elevating that storyline. Really curious to see where it goes next, especially because Elias seems to at least work with HR, if not control HR outright. So, yeah, very curious. Eager to jump into this episode. I know nothing about what it is other than what it's called. This is episode 16 of season 1, Risk.
What's wrong with my other suits?
They're fine for a hired assassin, Mr. Reese, just not for this particular job.
He's a tailor too, huh?
Mr. Adam Saunders. He's a prop trader at the investment firm of Baylor Zim.
I don't know anything about Wall Street.
Doesn't really matter. Banking is mostly looking clever and wearing the right clothes. And we've managed the second part.
We'll clean it up. Whatever it takes.
Insider training, under surveillance, by whom?
Guy's a whale. He brings us business. It's millions.
Well, it's gonna be Reese.
Backing me into a corner on this, Paul. Outstanding. I'll be spending 2 days with hair gel and a pinstripe suit.
So Finch is
It's
the
Glenn
whale.
Check, actually. My client prefers to stay anonymous.
He's the silent type.
He's also not fond of heights.
Looks good in a camel hair coat, though.
You following this? Robert Keller, former CEO of Vertanen Pharmaceuticals. Guy
Yeah.
standing trial for murder.
I'm familiar with the case.
The blue chip at a bargain basement price. Smart money's already in, pal.
Don't
That's
buy.
why I get to handle the big
Oh.
bucks around here. That's Sidney Baylor, a partner in the firm.
She also has a
Thought it was Zoe for a second.
100 million shorted, Adam?
You said you wanted playmakers around here.
Guilty of all charges.
You do that again, and you find yourself the most successful occupier down in a tent on the street.
Occupy Wall Street was already happening. Cool. Forget how long ago that was. And he's cloned. Oh, it failed.
Has that ever happened before?
All I can think is that somebody else already bluejacked him. It appears we're not the only ones looking into Adam Saunders.
Of course he drives a Porsche. Let's play all the cliches.
For a banker, he doesn't seem to trust banks.
Bundles of $200 each.
Small bills. Interesting.
If somebody goes after him, it'll likely happen at his home.
Yeah. Problem is, he isn't going home. Looks like he's working overtime.
Okay. Feels like we're back to a person of the week, but it's Wall Street.
No other smudges on his record, except for a Securities and Exchange Commission investigation that involved him 6 months ago. I don't know why.
3 World Financial Center, please.
John's gonna want that suit back. We need to get a look at sealed SEC records pertaining to Mr. Saunders.
You think I can just do that?
If anyone can do it, you can.
Triple espresso, please.
No problem.
Oh, triple
Oh, we got him.
Your inquiry wrapped 6 months ago,
And I can't let another Ivy League punk like yourself get away with it.
and I still have nothing to say. You couldn't give a parking ticket.
Good thing I got friends in the Justice Department. They love sending rich white boys up to Otisville.
No, they don't.
Watch your step.
They don't. No one from Wall Street goes to jail.
I believe he was lying to protect his boss, Sidney Baylor.
I'm calling the Department of Health, okay?
You know, I don't see what the problem is, because now you
Oh,
can
that's
stuff
Sawaski.
that soft gut of yours back into your $2,000 suit.
Is that his guardian?
$3,000 for a suit. How are you, pal? Good.
He's more than a guardian.
He's also a Baylor Zim client.
Hey, did you look into that MNP I asked about?
TriTac Energy.
TriTac, right.
Would I steer you wrong? Who got you those tax breaks?
What do we know about TriTech Energy, Finch?
That company, that energy company I asked you about last week, TriTac?
Who cares?
It's my uncle's cash. I care.
You've been looking into client money? You can't. It's illegal.
We're just that good.
Is that why you invested your uncle's money with the firm?
My family, my past is none of your business, no matter how much money is at stake.
Right.
You know, maybe I should call the police.
Being funneled, don't stop!
I'm trying to kill him. What does he know? And what's up with this TriTac Energy?
It was professional. But who hunts Adam dead enough to bring in a hit team?
TriTac should keep a steady price, but it shot up 600% recently because of a buy frenzy initiated at Baylor Zim.
Insider trading?
Happened before. Adam knew about it then. Maybe he knows about it now.
You know, I knew there was something fishy going on there. But Adam, he put me with good people. He said it was fine.
How well do you know your nephew?
Every month, his father sent $200. He saved every penny in shoe boxes.
$200 bundles.
What did he do? Bought himself a future.
It doesn't add up. There's no reason why Baylor Zim should be dumping so much money into this one company. Unless somebody knows something the rest of us don't.
Mr. Reese, we have a problem. He's on the roof.
We're gonna throw him?
Come on. We have to move fast.
What the hell happened back there?
Just a second attempt to kill you. I need to know what about TriTech has people repeatedly trying to do that. Did you tell anyone else?
A few friends at the firm. Sidney Baylor.
Only one utility yard reports vehicle thefts in the last week.
What would somebody want with an old garbage truck?
Did you find Sidney Baylor?
Yeah, we're at her penthouse now.
Oh, shit. So she was already dead. So she wasn't involved with luring him to the roof.
You recognize that bottle?
Yeah, we drank it the other night to celebrate the Vertanen short.
Finch, they killed Baylor for digging into her own company. Made it look like Adam did it before plunging to his own death.
Sprints are all over the home and the murder weapon.
You mean the champagne bottle? He could have handled the champagne bottle, say, days ago, then had it planted.
Who go through the trouble? You'd have to what? Search the building's garbage? Anyway, basement's guarded.
Unless they had a garbage truck.
The safest I've ever been is when I was anonymous. Here, you'll be safe too.
Wait, you can't.
He just stole a homeless person's jacket?
Here.
Her name is Joan. If you need anything, just ask her.
Go find Victor.
Your pal from the nightclub?
He's the senior broker. If someone's putting clients in TriTech, whether or not they want it, he's the next rung down on the brokerage ladder.
If this bill had not been passed today, it would have been put aside indefinitely.
We have a problem, Mr. Reese.
Fracking just got
What
approved.
else is new?
Fun. Pretty topical.
bill to start fracking in upstate New York.
Especially whenever this was
Which
hitting.
means they wouldn't need a pipeline up from the south. Adam saw this coming, tried to stop it.
Which is why they tried to kill him.
But who are they?
Hello, Victor. You're a patsy.
Someone got to the senators. Someone powerful enough to push that shale fracking bill through the system.
But why build TriTech up?
Wall Street Journal gets delivered.
Oh, no. Listen, it's a short sale.
Someone had the brokers pump up the price and then sold high because they knew that the bill was going to pass and kill TriTac.
Yeah.
We need to find the guys who already sold it days ago.
Because now they have to cover the short and buy it back.
Even if it takes the rest of my life, I will get it back.
I gotta go.
Hey, boss. I think I got a location on the kid.
Paul Ashton.
Adam's friend.
I found his short sale orders from last week, and the buy orders for TriTech issued to him this morning.
It can't be. No, I mean, it can't. They put measures in place to catch securities fraud.
Paul isn't working alone. He's got a friend in the SEC.
Oh.
You can't beat him, you join him.
And make millions along the way.
300 million to be exact. And the loose ends?
Well, Baylor won't be asking any more questions, but Adam is still out there.
I have it under control.
When I was 16, I went to go find my father. I didn't want the money.
Of course.
I wanted a family.
And you've had one.
I'll get Bob's money back. I promised him that I would.
When did you talk to your uncle?
Well, at least we're with them. Laser weapons.
We need to move.
Stay down.
Who the hell are they firing at? They're just shooting at random homeless people?
An SEC investigator and a banker do not shoot up a homeless encampment with automatic weapons.
No.
Paul and Rasmussen need TriTech to bottom out before they can collect on their bet. Have Adam put on a tie. He's going back to work.
We're gonna drive it back up and screw up their short.
By the time the dumb money gets back in, it'll be at an all-time high.
Who's the new player?
Anonymous. But I have a number.
This is Harold Crane, yes?
I need to speak with you about your majority share in TriTech Energies.
I'm sorry, you'll need to speak to my banker about that.
Don't worry. I'll sell you what you need. After all, what are friends for?
There, get him.
John Rooney.
They'll never see a prison.
Your family. Of course I forgive you.
Someone finally bought this old place.
It looks like we'll have to make camp elsewhere.
I know the new owner. He's a smart kid.
Is he hiring? Or are we just feeding
I don't think he'll have to be moving anywhere. I never said thank you.
Who's looking after you these days?
It's someone new.
Where's the other one?
You talking about the SEC guy?
Yeah.
They found him dead in his apartment in Queens.
I heard they both were arrested.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. What's the second cab? He's killed. That's not a suicide. Is that our Scar Cop? Yeah. Elias is involved.
There was someone else behind the scenes. Someone who hired a team of assassins, who knew a bill would pass in state government weeks before it did. Someone who could use $300 million to finance a personal war.
So what's this?
The bigger picture.
Hello, John.
Oh.
A long time.
Stay tuned for scenes from our next episode.
He was expecting that call, too. I dig it. I like that every episode's tying itself into something bigger at this point. And we really are leaning into newsworthy, topical corruption. I especially when this was airing live. You know, we're referencing Occupy Wall Street and fracking and like a bunch of like controversial, newsworthy stuff at the time. And I mean, it certainly hasn't stopped being, these haven't stopped being issues, but they aren't the leading news stories of the day. But when this came out, they really were. And I like that. I like that this show isn't operating in a parallel New York that isn't really the New York that's involved with the day-to-day news that we see on CNN. But it's we've got Obama in our flashbacks. We're referencing 9/11 was a trigger for this entire storyline, and I don't think we're going away from dealing with topical corruption on an episode-by-episode basis. But ultimately, this wasn't a rogue broker and a rogue SEC agent trying to get rich. They were doing this at the behest of Elias. And Elias needs to fund his operation. He's so incredibly powerful at this point. He's got his hands in the NYPD, but he's also able to manipulate Senate hearings, it would appear. I'm hopeful, but it hasn't happened yet, that this show explains how he has this control. We're showing that he's powerful. We're showing that his reach is incredibly extensive. But how does Elias have the NYPD under his thumb? How does he have this insight into political maneuvering weeks in advance? If he's doing this to fund his operation, it means he doesn't have the money yet. And we just screwed him out of $300 million. We know he's smart. We know he thinks ahead. We know he's been planning his entire life for this revenge. We've referenced Count of Monte Cristo in that regard, so we know how we're setting him up. But I hope we don't gloss over the fact that he's already in this position of power, and we haven't seen how he's achieved it exactly. When we first met him, he was just taking back neighborhood crime. He was taking back organized crime in small neighborhoods within New York, and now he's got complete control over everything, it would appear. But I like him as a big bad, and yet I wonder how do you know it was John calling him? So the SEC broker didn't kill himself. He was killed in his own apartment. He wasn't actually arrested. But Carter's piecing that together. She recognizes the cop with the evil scar. She's going to put herself in the crosshairs soon enough if she digs into that investigation. But it does feel like we're leading up to a big confrontation with Elias for the season finale. So that's intriguing. But I do like that we're tying it all together, and I like that he's the big bad villain. I need to see more direct evidence, I suppose, what got him there in the first place. He's got all this control, but I haven't seen how he got it. But man, am I intrigued. The show has my attention. It's always... If you guys haven't seen a movie called The Big Short, you really ought to. And it's all about the housing bubble and resultant crash of 2008. Really interesting, but one of the things I really enjoyed about that movie was it didn't dumb down explaining the economics, the financials of what was actually going on. And I think it's always hard when you dive into a story like this to have the right level of attention to detail and veracity, and yet still tell the story you want to tell. And I think we got a very simple version of how shorting a stock works here. And the resultant buyback is kind of what I'm bumping on. Like, I get that Finch is buying all this low-price Tritax stock at the end. But that buyback driving the price up to its pre-crash levels means Finch has massively overpaid and artificially driven up the price of this stock, which legitimately doesn't belong that high. Its price should be low because of this fracking bill that's just been passed. So now it's artificially inflated. Finch owns a large chunk of it at ridiculously high prices, and I mean, I guess he'll just end up selling it all off again to recoup his loss. But I don't feel like the price should have gone up that much. Everyone was so eager to sell off. I mean, yeah, obviously I don't live on Wall Street. I just don't feel like the price would have skyrocketed just because there were buy orders in. But anyway, I feel like sometimes the person of the week story in these episodes really is secondary to the underlying stuff that's happening. And what I did like about this episode a lot is, first and foremost, the Elias reveal at the end. I love that Carter's onto him. I like that we got more of Reese's recent background, when he was living homeless in the streets just before Finch found him. Part of me wishes that when you tell a story about Wall Street, the only good guy in the story is the poor kid from Queens who worked his own way into the system, and everyone else is scuzzy and slimy and bad. And I'm not trying to absolve White Wall Street of its crimes, but I can't imagine it's that cut and dry. And yet there's certainly a narrative shorthand there where the rich are the bad guys, and that simplifies. Again, it's choosing what to complicate and choosing what to keep simple for ease of narration, for condensing a story into 42 minutes. I think this is one of the real challenges of network television, is telling a compelling and believable story in such a short period of time. There's a reason movies keep getting longer, because we try and fit more story into them, and we don't have that option with network television. Television has such possibilities for growth because we're changing the format. We've embraced the miniseries style of television. We don't call them miniseries anymore. They're streaming services and premium cable say, okay, let's not tell this 42-minute story. Let's tell this 8-hour story over a season of television, 8 1-hour episodes. And now we can really dive into some interesting stuff. And it's all about the through line. And some network television was doing it before Person of Interest, 24 and Lost and that sort of thing. But most network television is still very much episodic in nature. Finding that balance, especially in season 1, where you're also trying to find that as big an audience as you can, I can only imagine is a major challenge. And this isn't a cheap show to produce. You're filming on location in New York. Big casts, lots of action. It's not a cheap show to make. So finding that audience is imperative. And so the network's got a lot of control to help ensure that you find that audience. But everything I'm hearing in the comments from you guys is the biggest trick Jonathan Nolan ever pulled was convincing the network that this was just another procedural. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I get that it's a procedural in season 1. I'm getting more than enough hints that it's going somewhere beyond procedural. But you can't help but look at the limitations of your traditional episodic procedural network drama and see them for what they are here in season 1. I'm acknowledging the limitations of the show. I'm not trying to criticize it. I'm not trying to put it down. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I find it a very fascinating case study is kind of where my head's at. I'm looking at this as, if you're a storyteller, if there's a show you want to produce, a story you want to tell, and a network says, yes, we want this to be the next CSI, how do you convince them that it's just like another crime procedural, but actually turn it into something else entirely? And I'm really enjoying that journey, and I know we haven't reached it yet, but I also trust that it's coming. So I don't know whether all my commentary at the end of these episodes is interesting to you guys, because I'm approaching it from a very particular viewpoint, which is somebody who's worked in the industry, someone who's very story conscious. I'm not a casual viewer. I'm purposely approaching this with a great deal of analytic intent. So I'm fascinated by it as a case study, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. And I am intrigued by this story, but you do see the limitations of network, of episodic, of standard formulaic procedural television having their influences on it in its early episodes. Yeah, I'm really curious to watch more, see where this goes. I love that we are connecting all these seemingly unassociated stories into something bigger, and seeing what the extent of that bigger is. Yeah, I'm really intrigued. Can't wait for more. Can't wait for next week. Until then, everybody, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.